My name is Franz Tenali, and I'm a partner and leader of the Latin American initiative at Gowling WLG. For those of you who do not know about us, Gowling WLG is an international law firm with more than 1,400 professionals in 18 cities across Canada, the UK, continental Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. We're an industry-focused full-service law firm, and mining and energy are one of our primary areas of practice. On behalf of Gowling WLG, I welcome you to our live webinar on the occasion of this very unique PDAC titled Mining Opportunities in Colombia 2021, organized by our very close friends from the Canada-Colombia Chamber of Investment and Trade. I have to say that although we're not together as in the previous years, sharing a drink and a great conversation and experiences at the wonderful cocktail parties that the Chamber always gives in every PDAC, I promise you, we have a very interesting event ahead of us. And we're very excited because we have not only two first-class keynote speakers, the Colombian Minister of Mine and Energy, Diego Mesa Puyo, and the President of the National Mining Agency of Colombia, Juan Miguel Duran Prieto, but we also have a very distinguished panel with firsthand knowledge and experience in Colombia. And after our panel discussion, we will have a live Q&A session. Now, before I begin, or we begin, let's go through a few housekeeping matters. First, for the live Q&A session and the panel discussion, please send us your questions through the Zoom Q&A function, which can be found at the bottom of your screen. We will review your questions and try to answer as many of them as possible at the end of the session. And then for the panel discussion, we suggest that you put your Zoom in gallery view. I know that by now pretty much everybody is an expert on Zoom, but for those of you that still are not, which I am one of those, the view setting, you can be found at the top right of your screen. Now, for the opening remarks, I want to introduce you to the mastermind of this wonderful event, my good friend, Andres Trivino. Andres is the president of the Canada-Colombia Chamber of Investment and Trade, and he's the voice that promotes investment and trade between Canada and Colombia. And this is thanks to his more than 21 years of experience advising corporations in Canada, the US, and Latin America, first for PwC Canada, and before that for ABN and Amber. So without further ado, Andres, I pass it to you.
Friends, can you hear me well?
Perfectly.
Awesome. Thank you, friends, for the kind introduction and good morning. Thank you for joining our event. My name, as Franz mentioned, is Andres Trivino. I'm the president of the Canada-Colombia Chamber of Investment and Trade. We are an independent organization created in Canada to promote business relations between the two countries. I want to thank the Minister of Mines and Energy and the president of the National Mining Agency for accepting our invitation to participate. We look forward to your presentation and the panel of experts to learn more about the sector and potential opportunities in the country. I would like to thank our sponsors, leadership sponsors, Gowling WLG, B2 Gold, Canaccord Genuity, Atico Mining, and Cordova Minerals, as well our executive sponsors, Minera Cobre, Max Resources, and Global Affairs Canada. Please read more about them and the participants in the agenda if you have time. Now, let me introduce the Minister of Mines and Energy, Honorable Diego Mesa Puyo. The Minister is a global-minded energy and extractive leader with over 15 years of experience in management and advisory roles in the government, in multilaterals, and the private sector. As Colombia Deputy Energy Minister between 2018 and 2020, he co-led the design and implementation of the country's energy transformation policy. Before joining the Colombian government, he spent 6 years at the International Monetary Fund, where he led technical assistance missions to advise several countries around the world on fiscal issues for extractive industries. Prior to the IMF, he spent 4 years as a manager and senior economist in the consulting and deals practice of PricewaterhouseCoopers in Canada. The minister holds a Master's of Arts in Economics from McGill and is a CFA chart holder since 2012. Minister, I know you have a very busy schedule, so I want to thank you for joining us today. And I want to just pass it on to you, so I want to welcome you to the screen. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Andres. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to you and to Franz for the invitation. It's a pleasure, as I said, always to have the opportunity to talk to Canadian companies from the financial sector, from the mining sector, from the service sector. And I usually enjoy very much the opportunity to be involved in these events that the Canada-Colombia Chamber of Investment and Trade organizes. I was asked to talk about, what are the investment opportunities in the mining sector in Colombia. So I have a presentation that is going to guide my remarks today. So I'm going to share screen, and if you can please let me know once you're seeing my screen, that'll be great. It should be on now, so everyone can see it, I hope.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing, and as you know, I'm responsible for energy and mining, and we see that these two sectors are completely intertwined. So I'm going to be talking about what are we doing in the energy transition, which is one of the flagship policies that we've been developing, and obviously that's absolutely key also for our mining sector. And this energy transition is a process that Colombia is going through, but is a global trend that we see in many countries. And that's why we believe that this is one of the golden opportunities for our mining sector, not only thinking about the opportunities here in Colombia, but also the opportunities that our mineral products have around the globe. So let me start with some background numbers that I guess some of you already know, but this is just to highlight the importance of the Colombian energy and mining sector for our economy. This is a sector that when we combine it with public utilities, which is also part of this ministry, especially energy and gas, we are the second sector in Colombia based on GDP. We contribute close to 13% of GDP, only after trade and services. When we looked at other variables such as exports, we're responsible for more than 50% of Colombian exports and about a third of foreign direct investment. And this is also a key sector for the state finances at the national level, but also at the municipal and departmental level. So the royalties that this sector pays is absolutely fundamental for the development of Colombia. For the sector, we've been working since we took office back in August 2018 on 4 axes. And if you look at these 4 strategic axes, 3 of them are related to mining. The first one is what I was mentioning before, the energy transition. And here we're focusing on the massification of variable renewables, especially wind and solar. And as you obviously know, mining is absolutely essential to produce wind turbines and solar panels. I'll talk about that in a minute, a little bit more. We have energy security. This is more related to making sure that we continue to be self-sufficient for oil and gas. The third one is what we call sustainable mobility. And here we have a very aggressive policy for electric vehicles and charging stations. And we're actually leading in electric vehicles sales in Latin America with very strong numbers. I'll mention that in a minute. But obviously for these EVs and for battery and storage of energy, again, mining is absolutely key. And finally, obviously, direct relationship with mining. We're working on what we call diversification of our mining matrix. Colombia currently depends heavily on thermal coal. We have very good quality thermal coal that we will continue to promote, but we are trying to diversify our matrix and going into especially metallic minerals, which are the minerals are required for the energy transition. Obviously, COVID-19 was a big shock for Colombia. Our GDP went down by about 6.8%, but very good projections for 2021. We expect to be growing above 5%. And here we're focusing on the energy and mining sector to be one of the key sectors for the economic recovery. And we're also focusing on building more sustainable economy going forward. We've identified a number of sectors such as power, transportation, energy efficiency for home and industry, mobility, as I said, mining and new technologies that can be applied. Just to put some targets for the energy transition that I was mentioning before, we've made some auctions in 2019 that is allowing us to increase the percentage of the participation of variable renewables into our energy matrix. Colombia had a participation of wind and solar that was below 1% back in 2018. As a result of the auctions, we're going to have massive increase in the participation of this sources of energy. We'll have about 12% by 2022. This includes solar farms and wind projects, but also a good number of small self-generation projects in the main cities of Colombia. And just to also give you some numbers on the sustainable mobility front, our goal is to get to 600,000 vehicles by 2030. But as I was saying, we're seeing very good numbers over the last 2.5 years. In 2019, Colombia became the leading country in Latin America in terms of EV sales, surpassing Chile and Dominican Republic. In 2020, sales of EVs and hybrids, despite the pandemic, grew by 90%. And this year alone, in January and February, we're seeing increases that are above 100 and 200% compared to the same months in 2020. So I just got the numbers yesterday by the end of February. And in the first two months of 2021, we've sold about 30% of the vehicles that were sold in 2020. And, with the growth rates that I mentioned before, this is remarkable. And we do believe that, this is going to continue to be one of the main sectors for the energy transition going forward. But I just wanted to, share this phrase with you, which is, I like it very much. And in this, global fight against climate change, we have to be conscious that mining is going to be absolutely key to be able to achieve the goals that we as a planet have set. And, mining industry will be responsible for providing much of the materials that are going to be needed to continue into this energy transition and, net zero objectives that a lot of the countries are now working on, including Colombia. And this graph also is very telling. Here you can see, how much minerals or how many minerals are needed over what we call energy ages. And as we go into a cleaner energy transition, obviously the need for minerals is going to increase exponentially. In Colombia, we know that what it's going to be required over the next 25 years, for example, in terms of copper, gold, nickel, molybdenum, is going to be significantly higher than what was needed over the last 100 years or so. So this is, what I mentioned earlier, as in Colombia, as we continue to expand our wind installed capacity and solar capacity, just to produce a turbine for 3 megawatts, we need about 4 tons of copper, 335 tons of steel, concrete. The same goes for solar. And this is just to show you how important metallic minerals are going to be in this process. So what do we have specifically in mining in Colombia? As I said, we would like to diversify our matrix. Currently, we've identified 30 projects for gold and copper that could come into operation over the next 3 or 4 years. This will require investment of about $5 billion or so, with the potential to generate over 7,000 jobs. Here is the map. As you can see, these projects are located across a number of different departments of provinces. There one that already entered into operation, which is the mine in Buritica in the department of Antioquia. This is the largest underground gold operation in Colombia so far, entered into production in October last year. It's producing about 250,000 ounces of gold per year. That meant that our gold production increased as a result of this mine by about 22%. We will also have another large mine in Antioquia as well, starting the construction phase in the second half of this year. That's going to be operated by B2 Gold, and that's the mine of Gramalote in San Roque. And that mine will also have the potential to significantly increase production by a bit more than what the Buritica mine is producing right now. So we have many other projects, copper projects as well, in what we call now the Colombia Copper Belt, that starts at the bottom of the map that you're seeing there in the department of Putumayo, but continues along the basins in Chocó, Antioquia, Cordoba, and Bolivar. And there we have, very interesting opportunities as well with regards to copper. I think, we've also very well placed in terms of attracting investment. We got a very good news last week when the 2020 survey of mining companies by the Fraser Institute was released for 2020, and Colombia was able to climb about 28 places in the ranking. And for the first time since this survey is being conducted, Colombia is now leading the rank in Latin America. Globally, we're the 28th place, and we are conscious that this composite, it's made up of two main indices. One that ranks resource potential. Colombia ranks extremely high in resource potential. We all know that, but we may need to do a little bit more work on regulatory perception, which is the other part of the index. And that's why we're working on these three aspects. We're working on legality and security to make sure that we have a secure environment to advance mining legally in Colombia. And obviously, we had a fight against what we call illegal mining, which is one of the main sources of funds for groups that are outside the law in Colombia. We're also working on having a much better relationship with the communities in the territory. And this also includes having the right environmental standards in Colombia, which are already high. But we do want to set example in this front in Colombia, especially because we are a very biodiverse country, but we do believe that mining can coexist perfectly well with our environment and our rich country. And finally, we're working what we call a new mining model, and I'll talk about this a little bit more. This is some of the things that we've been working on each of these areas of work. So we have a very strong relationship from the ministry with the Ministry of Defense. We will be presenting to Congress in about 2-3 weeks a new bill against illegal mining that's going to increase the punishment for different aspects of illegal mining, not only the extraction, but also the transportation, commercialization, financing, which are not well typified at the moment in our law. And continue to work on having a better traceability of the gold, especially for small operations, but making sure that we also provide all the assistance that is needed by these small scale miners so that they can conduct their operations legally. And we can ensure that the gold, especially, is coming from a legal source. In the territory and environment, we're strengthening the local environmental authorities. In Colombia, we have a system in which we have a national authority, but for smaller operations, we have authorities in each of the departments or provinces. So we're working with the Ministry of Environment and with these authorities to make sure that they become more technical. We're also modernizing the environmental license process and authority, working very closely with them. And we're also making the regulations much more agile and easier to interpret, so that investors know exactly what to expect when they apply for environmental licensing process. We're having much better coordination with local authorities. We made a significant change last year in the Constitution of Colombia, in which we reform how royalties that are paid by mining and oil and gas companies are distributed to the different departments and provinces in Colombia. And the main goal of that reform was that we more than double the distribution to what we call the producing regions. So the departments and the municipalities that produce minerals and oil and gas. And this will have a significant change in the relationship that we have with these territories. The increase obviously makes a huge difference for their investment budget. This was very well received by mayors in these departments and these cities and these municipalities. And obviously, we're bringing all this strategy down to communities so that they realize there are tangible benefits to having mining operations and activities in their territories. And the new mining model has to do with making sure that we have a better fiscalization of the mining resources, that we have higher standards. We're piloting a new model in Chocó, which is one of the departments that has the highest potential, but it's also one that has a lot of ethnic communities, and we need to have better relationship with them. And we're also working on what we call the strategic mining areas, which is one of the key policies for this diversification. And I'll talk a little bit more about the strategic mine areas, and then I'll obviously leave some room for the president of A&M to talk about this in more detail. So the process, we launched already the first licensing process for these strategic mining areas. We've identified 37 potential blocks. We started with 4 areas that are copper prone in Cesar and La Guajira in the northern part of the country, but we've identified potential for other minerals also in Antioquia and Tolima. And I'm sure Juan Miguel will go into the details about this, but this is the first time we're doing a competitive licensing process for mining in Colombia. We're very excited, and we have a model that we believe it's going to be very attractive for new and existing investors. So this is one of our main goals this year, to allocate these 4 areas and then work on the second round later this year. So I'll end with that note, and I thank you very much again. As I said, we believe that we have significant opportunities in the Colombian mining sector, in the Colombian energy sector, that are linked. And we also have a very attractive fiscal and regulatory framework that we've set up back in 2019 when we took office. So I'll stop right there, and I'll thank you again for your attention.
Minister, super interesting presentation. Thank you so much. I admire your leadership and all the hard work you put in the advancement of the energy and mining sector in Colombia. So thank you again for accepting our invitation to present today. And thank you. Now, let me introduce the president of the National Mining Agency, Mr. Juan Miguel Duran Prieto. Mr. Duran has been the president of the National Mining Agency since July 2020. Before joining the agency, Mr. Duran held important positions in Colombia, such as Superintendent of Ports and Transportation, Manager of the Education Infrastructure Fund, and Secretary of Government of the Mayor's Office in Bogotá. In the private sector, he was the executive president of the Colombian Federation of Road Freight Transporters, called Colfecar. He has a law degree from the Pontificia Universidad Javeriana and a master's degree in commercial and business law from the Universidad del Rosario. Mr. Duran has been traveling in Colombia, and he's been experiencing some technical and connectivity issues. So to avoid complications during this event, we decided that the best was to have a pre-recorded session, which he kindly did last night. So I want to thank Mr. Duran for doing that, and I want to ask Shannon, please, if you could share the video. Thank you.
Good morning to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Andres Trevino, President of the Canadian Colombian Chamber of Investment and Trade, for inviting us to this important event where we can let everyone know all the opportunities there are in Colombia for the mining sector. And I'd also like to welcome the investors, the companies that are here present to hear and know more about Colombia and our mining opportunities. Okay, I'd like to start off by showing an overall of what mining in Colombia represents. As you can see, in Latin America, regarding exports, we're first in coal and emeralds, fourth in ferronickel, seventh in copper and gold. We have an investment grade. We're a member of the OCDE since May 2018. We're the fourth destiny in Latin America in doing business, third country in Latin America with mineral resources and reserve standard. We have 16 commerce agreements, 14 investment agreements, and 12 double tax agreements. We have 22 companies that are in TSX, TSXV. Also, mining represents 1.3% of Colombia's GDP in the third quarter of 2020, 25% of exports by 2020. We have approximately 154,000 direct employees in the mining sector. This is not counting, obviously, the indirect employees that the sector provides to many regions. In 2020, $402 million were produced in royalties. We're the first investment attractiveness index, best practices mineral potential index in Latin America and the Caribbean. The mining sector represents 8.8% of the foreign direct investment as of the third quarter of 2020, and 5% of Latin America's non-ferrous metals exploration budget in 2020. Okay, mining, as I said, contributed in 1.3% of our GDP. Coal occupies the first place in mining GDP with 53%. Gold and metals, second place with 31%. This is, in exports, this is around $7.7 billion in 2020. And of this, 25% of Colombia's exports. In coal, it represents 54%. In gold and precious metals, 37%. In ferronickel, 6%. In emeralds, 1%. And other minerals, 2%. Regarding foreign direct investment in mining, as we know, global non-ferrous exploration budget in 2020 was approximately 8.3 billion, 52% of destined to gold exploration, 23% destined to exploration in copper, 25% of Latin America with more than $2.06 billion, where Colombia in 2020 accounted for more than 5%. This is around $103 million of Latin America's exploration budget. And in 2019, the mining sector accounted for 12.3% of the total foreign direct investment in Colombia, reaching approximately $1.7 billion. Okay, now I'd like to talk about potential mineral areas. As you see in the right-hand side, we have strategic minerals that we have identified in Colombia, such as gold, copper, coal, nickel, coltan, potassium, magnesium, iron, uranium, phosphates, and others. And we have acquired knowledge of our subsoil in 73% regarding geological information, 70% regarding geophysical information, and 36% regarding geochemical information. Our focus in the government is to increase mineral production, diversify the mining production matrix. As you know, and I'll be speaking about this later on, we've started to let investors know about our new rounds regarding copper, and raising the levels of formality of mining activity with the best practices of informal economies. Okay, Colombia's a country to explore. We have 7,285 mining titles, which represents 2.9% of our territory. And we have 9,867 applications for titles, which would represent 7.9% of our territory. As you can see in the right-hand side, this is all represented in mining titles and applications regarding construction materials, we have 54% represent mining titles, 38% represent applications. In gold and precious metals, 16% represent mining titles and 41% represent application titles. In coal, we have 14% that represent mining titles and 9% of the applications, of the new applications. In emeralds, 3% mining titles and 5% in mining applications. And in copper, 1% in mining titles and 3% in new applications for titles. I'd like to also get into specifically gold on the first hand. We have important gold mining activity. We have now 1,184 titles, which represent 1.13% of our national territory. And we have 4,060 applications, new applications for new titles. Production-wise, in 2018, we produced 35.9 tons. In 2019, 37.5 tons. And in 2020, we had production of 47.7 tons. We also would like to mention that we have 4 new gold projects that began production in 2018-2020. Okay, gold production by type of authorized mine operators represent 41% of the mining titles, and 59% are gold production in small scale minings. Okay, now regarding resources and reserves, we have in 17 major gold projects, 16.6 million ounces in measured and indicated resources, 14.3 million ounces in indicated resources, 54.1 million ounces in inferred resources, 5.8 million ounces in proven and probable reserves, and 7.5 million ounces in probable reserves. Also, gold production is expected to increase by 18% in 2021. As you see, we have gold projects with an approved environmental license like Buriticá and Gramalote. We also have pipeline projects as Quinchía Gold, Quinchía La Cumbre, Soto Norte, Quebradona, San Matias, and Anzá. And we also have various different companies, international companies that have been investing in this sector since 2017 up until now. Now I'd like to talk about the copper mining activity in our country. We have 262 titles, which represent 0.3% of our natural territory. We also have 1,292 applications, new applications. And in production-wise, in 2018, we produced 9,920 tons. In 2019, 7,644 tons. And in 2020, 9,372 tons. Okay, Colombia has 3 copper belts where important prospects can be found in the central region, western and eastern region, as you can see in the map. And regarding resources and mineral reserves, we have 798 million pounds in measured and indicated resources, 6,061 million pounds in indicated resources, 8,445 million pounds in inferred resources, 109 million pounds in proven and probable resources, and 2,875 million pounds in probable reserves. We also have, we're also expecting to increase in 1,000% in 2024 in production-wise, which is very important. It's a very powerful message for all the companies and investors. And right now we have a big copper project in exploitation, which is called El Roble. We have pipeline projects such as Quebradona, Soto Norte, Titiribí, San Matias, Mocoa, and La Mina, and also recognized companies that have invested since 2017. Okay, at the Colombian National Mining Agency, we have designed 4 different pillars in order to aim into the reactivation of our economy. The first one is efficiency. The second one is to be effective. The third one is to diversify our matrix. And the fourth one is to demystify mining in general. I'd like to explain these a little bit. For example, effectiveness, as you can see, 93.5% for small and medium scale minings and 6.5% are large scale minings. We have developed a special strategy at the agency, which is called ANM Activa la Región, where we go and work at mining regions with our miners, with the companies in order to resolve bottlenecks, give legal support, bring technology-based tools to the region, and also technical and focalized security training, which is very important for our activity. So every 15 days, we go to a different region in Colombia, work with the companies, resolve problems, and this has been something really interesting, which has helped us further our industry, further our activity, and this has been something very positive for the mining sector. Also, we have audit prerogatives in mining titles, which we developed through satellite images, online checking, IoT setups for production, and drone-based auditing, which will soon come into place. And we're also developing a traceability system in order to measure and calculate transaction volumes across the chain, as well as origins of construction materials, emeralds, gold, and coal. Regarding demystifying, we have 3 different strategies. The first one has to do with the regional forums with universities and colleges. The second one has to do with miners in action, where mining companies have the opportunity to let the world know about all the different social and environmental programs regarding the responsibility we have not only with the territory, but with our environment. And our third strategy is regarding Colombia's young miners, where we speak to young people in order for them to know what mining is all about and for them to replicate what mining is to their families and to their communities. Okay, in diversifying, this is what we've planned out for in order to boost our economy. We have various strategies that are ongoing. First of all, we have a specific strategy for thermal coal, which will initialize in March of this year. We mean to strengthen the competitiveness for coal in the international markets through CO2 emission offsettings. We have also developed mining rounds, which we started in this month of February, with the first copper round, and this is the first in Colombia's history. Next, we're going to have one in September for phosphates, and hopefully at the end of this year, and in the year 2022, we're going to start with our first roundtables regarding gold. Also, we have business roundtables for gold. The first one we had in November of last year. We're going to have 2 next roundtables in October. In coal, we also had one last year, and this year we're going to have 2 new roundtables. In copper, we're going to have 2 roundtables in 2021, and in emeralds, we're going to have one in this year. As you can see, roundtables are designed in order to let different parties meet and see what businesses or what interests there could be in production and in buying production for different regions of the world. And we hope that this will strengthen ties business-wise for many companies in Colombia. Also, we've developed a strategy to resolve bottlenecks. This regarding environmental agencies, territorial agencies, regarding mining procedures and public works agents, which are already working in the different territories, helping out our mining companies around Colombia. Okay, the strategic mining areas is a very important strategy. As I mentioned, we started the strategy this month of February, this last month of February, where I'd like to signal some very important points. First, these are areas that are awarded under special exploration and exploitation contract through an objective selection process. They produce additional resources for the country and its territories through an economic compensation, additionally to the royalties. There's also consolidated scenarios at the social and environmental level. We have processed coordination in concurrence with local authorities and prior consultations with communities, as well as we've made analysis of environmental information to facilitate licensing procedures. This is also a promotion aspect that we've developed for domestic and foreign investments. It's a competitive contractual conditions that we have set forth to boost mining exploration and exploitation, and in order to contribute to mineral diversification in Colombia. Okay, how can we advance with these strategic mining areas? First, by deepening of the geological knowledge. This is the first step we've undergone with copper, and we're constantly knowing and getting to know and analyzing information, geological information. Then we reserve these areas that have high potential. And in the next 3 steps that are done at the same time practically, we characterize the territory, we meet up with mayors and governors in order for these important talks about coordination and concurrence of potentials and different projects that are being brought to the territory. And we do all the prior consultations and final delimitations of the territories, which are very important with communities. The final stage is the objective selection process, which I'm going to explain right here. So the Copper Route 2021, as I said, has already started. What is the Copper Route? And this is important for everyone to know. It is a tool to achieve mineral diversification and boost exploration in the country. It's flexible, competitive, and transparent, with clearly established timelines for accessing mining areas. These are areas with high mineral potentials that will be awarded through the objective selection process. What are the stages for the selection process? First, we open the process in order to let everyone know what areas are available, and we publish the terms of reference. Then the submission of the first offer, whoever's interested submits this offer. Obviously, before they have to be qualified, and further, and in the next part of the presentation, I'll show you how you can qualify in order to participate. But once the first company submits this offer, then the other companies could have a counter offer. And finally, the first company that is offered can better this offer. So it's a competitive process. Then the competition for the best offer, as I mentioned, is undergone. And finally, we have the selection with obviously the criteria that are clear and transparent to everyone that we do here at the agency. And finally, we subscribe the contract by registering it in the National Mining Registry. So what benefits does it bring to the country? It's an innovative mechanism to manage on mining resources and become a competitive country in the international mining market. It will help attract investment and resources for exploration in the global economic crisis context. And it will contribute to the energy transition, producing minerals for future technologies. What benefits does it bring to the region's economic diversification through the exploitation of new minerals and production chains? It generates additional resources for the nation and for the regions through economic compensations, in addition to royalties and direct investment in the regions derived derived from the social management plans of the contracts. What benefits does it bring to investors? It consolidates scenarios at the social level, which is very important. These are prior coordination and concurrence processes with local authorities and prior consultation with communities. We also give investors access to updated environmental information and baseline for environmental impact assessments to facilitate licensing procedures, and competitive contractual conditions to boost mining exploration with a clear and fair rules and expedited timelines that generates legal certainty for investors. Now, as I mentioned, we have started this process, this first process with 4 regions, with 4 different places that are described here in the map, in 2 departments, La Guajira and El Cesar. And how could you participate in this copper route? First, you have to qualify to participate in the selection process, and then submit a proposal in the selection process. So how can you qualify to participate? You have to first register yourself with some information regarding legal capacity. These could be companies or individuals, national or foreign companies or legal entities without a branch in Colombia, and plural structures. Also environmental capacity with the certifications, financial capacity with all the financial information, technical capacity depending if you're type A, B, or C, and a capacity in corporate social responsibility. Okay, this is it. Hopefully this information has been of interest of all the participants, and at the National Colombian Agency, we're going to be open to have any questions you may have, and hopefully you'll participate in all these new opportunities. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. Duran, and thank you very much, Mr. Mesa. Those are wonderful, wonderful presentations. As always, those presentations are very interesting, very insightful, and they gave us a wonderful view of where Colombia is now and what Colombia is planning to do from the government perspective. So very, very much appreciated. I'm very lucky to have you with us here today. Now to our panel event. I'm very fortunate today to have the opportunity to moderate a discussion with a real amazing panel. First, I'm very proud to introduce an amazing female mining executive. Her name is Sarah Amstrom. She is the General Counsel at High Power Exploration, Inc. Is a metal-focused exploration company, which is part of the Ivanhoe Group. Sarah is also Vice President, General Counsel of Cordoba Minerals Corp. And President of Minerales Cordoba in Colombia, where she manages all in-country operations in Colombia. Sarah has an amazing career, which is impossible to actually describe here right now, but all I can tell you is that she has wonderful experience in Asia, in Hong Kong, in Australia, and of course, Latin America. So thank you, Sarah, for being here. Then we have Dale Craig. Dale is Vice President Operations at B2 Gold, and he's the country manager at the Gramalote project in Colombia. Dale is a very experienced mining executive that has worked and been involved in mining industry for more than 30 years, working in a variety of mine operations, including lead, zinc, copper, coal, and gold in British Columbia, Guyana, Mongolia, Peru, and Nicaragua. We have a very international panel here. Welcome, Dale. Then we have Fernando Ganosa. Fernando is the CEO of Atico Mining, and Fernando has over 20 years of management experience in Latin America, including roles in the development of mines in Peru and Mexico, and project manager and country manager for Canadian-based producer Fortuna Silver Mines. Welcome, Fernando. And last but not least, from making us all jealous from the Bahamas, we have Eugene McBurney, Gene. Gene is the chairman and CEO of Canaccord Genuity Emerging Markets, and he brings deep international relationships and experience that have been developed over an investment banking career for more than 25 years. He has a dedicated investment banking practice that serves the Caribbean and Latin American regions, and has established an invariable track record of providing advice and services for his clients in the resource and non-resource sectors. And of course, over his very long career, he has led a number of landmark transactions in the mining and natural resources sectors. Welcome, Gene. Welcome, everybody. So, to start our discussion, I thought that we would go outside in, and let's start macro and go in to Colombia. And for that, I'm going to start with you, Gene, so we can set up the stage for the discussion. As we all know, 2020, to say the least, took everyone by surprise, with COVID-19 cutting through most companies' plans, and forcing leaders across the mining sector to refine strategy objectives, recommit to their stakeholders, reset priorities, but at the same time, it energized the commodity markets, right? And even though it was bumpy at times, and gave a lot of surprises, it gave a very exciting run. So everybody that is watching this webinar, of course, is interested in mining. And the first question everybody's wondering is, where are we going? Is this going to last? So given your track record in investment banking and the fact that you have written many economic titles, I was wondering if we can look into your crystal ball and perhaps you can let us know what do you think is the outlook for the mining industry as a whole, and perhaps focusing as well on the short term for copper, silver, and gold.
Thank you very much, France. It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for that introduction. Fortunately, minerals don't spoil on the ground. So we're in a position where, even though we've gone through a very traumatic 12 months, where we've been working remotely and staying away from airports and mine visits and things of that nature, the resources are still there. I would think the smart people are calling for a new commodity cycle, which is very good. We've just heard from two very well-placed government officials who have proclaimed that their governments are going to be very mining friendly. And we're hearing that from a lot of the governmental people, that they're going to be mining friendly, so long as you're environmentally and socially responsible. So where I see things going is I see tremendous opportunities. We will get back to normal soon. It'll be a new normal, but nevertheless it'll be normal. The capital markets are wide open. We've had unprecedented transactions in almost all sectors. At Canaccord Genuity, I was at a think tank session recently, and they were talking about the inflows of capital that came in Canada in the retirement savings area. So my hope, prediction, if you like, is that yes, we'll be coming into a commodity super cycle. The minerals are still there in the ground, and people are very aware of their responsibilities on a go-forward basis, as are the governments who will be looking for new sources of revenue.
Wonderful. I think everybody likes to hear that. So let's focus a little bit in something different. So we heard a lot about copper today, and Sarah, we've heard, and I hear, of course, all the time that, Colombia remains underdeveloped compared to Chile, Peru, and Argentina when it comes to copper, even though it shares the same geological setting and same mineral potential of those countries. So from your view, what do you think is Colombia's outlook in terms of potential copper production? What else do you think we should know?
Thanks, France. I think that Colombia has massive potential for some large copper discoveries. I think we're dealing with a country that's largely unexplored. You've probably only got 1% of Colombia that's been explored due to the last 40 years of conflict. I think we've got the exciting opportunities that were discussed today, such as the strategic areas of interest and the bidding rounds that have been opened up by the government. there is great potential for porphyry copper production, and our view is that we should be able to find at least another 2 to 3 Nueva Chaquira style deposits that's of Anglo gold Ashantis, and a large number of 1 billion plus ton resources at lower grades. We're talking less than 1%. I would probably compare Colombia to Peru and Ecuador, in that Peru is progressing from an explorer to a producer. I think Ecuador is currently extremely successful in the exploration stage, and soon to transition to development and production. And I think Colombia is still in early exploration stage, but I think there is all the possibility in the world that we find the next great copper discovery here in Colombia.
Wonderful. And Fernando, you're in the same as well environment. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you have any additional thoughts in terms of what is the outlook for copper production and copper development in Colombia?
Sure, I absolutely agree with what Sarah said. I think the potential is huge. I think, in fact, the potential is to be as much of a top producer in Latin America as Peru is, and which is a lot to say. I do think that we are a long way from that, though. But let's be clear. We're just starting this path in Colombia, and although the potential is enormous, there are challenges that need to be faced to turn that potential into a reality in terms of copper production and being a top producer, not only in Latin America, but perhaps in the world as well.
Good. Thank you. That's good. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit further. But getting into Colombia, and talking about Colombia now, and having Dale in the panel, and somebody that represents B2Gold, that has operations in the Philippines, in Namibia, in Finland, and in Uzbekistan. And then now we say Colombia. So it is almost impossible not to ask you, Dale, why Colombia?
Sure, and France and Andres, thank you for the invitation from the Canada-Colombia Chamber of Investment and Trade. It's a pleasure to be here. Why Colombia? Well, in fact, we never left Colombia. Our roots here go back to 2002, so we have been around here for a while. But what has attracted us back and to participate as the operator with Gramalote, well, you said it well. Let's look from the outside to in. One, and following the comments of Minister Mesa, Colombia is open for business. Mining is an accepted part of a diverse economy here, and that's important to us. We can't open for business here if Colombia isn't open for business. When we look further down and come closer to Colombia, we see a dynamic, diverse economy here that is able to support the kind of development that we want to put in place. We see government agencies that are engaged and interested and active in their participation and highly consultative with us. That's ANLA, A&M, Minister of Mines, both at the national level and the local level, or the departmental level. And if we look at the local level, we have the consejeros in the municipality of San Roque, who is willing and active partner with us to positively develop the process. So really, we see a lot of good pieces fall into place here when we look at Colombia. We're not new to South America, and we're not new to Colombia. I would also add that the ACM, the Chamber of Mines here, is very active and supportive, and they've been facilitative in developing our relationships here with the government.
Excellent. Sarah, what do you think, in terms of what is your attractiveness to Colombia as well? Do you have anything to add?
I would agree with Dale's comments. I think for us, Colombia has a robust and a robust legal framework that I think gives us comfort and in our investment here. I think that exactly what Dale said. I think we have excellent support from the Mining Association of Colombia. I think they're extremely active here. I think Colombia is definitely open for business. I think we have very good access and very good support from the government at all levels. And I think it's been mentioned a few times today, but mining is definitely on the agenda. It was mentioned just yesterday by President Duque that mining is going to be a big part of the recovery of the economy here in Colombia post-COVID, and there is a lot of support for the mining sector. So, I mean, with everybody wanting mining and sort of being pro-mining, it's an attractive place to be.
Excellent. And Jean, you know, from your perspective, because you're the investment banker, right? We're talking to the miners, but you're the investment banker. You're the guy who's going to go and find the money and bring it in. So when you're talking to the investors and, you know, being Colombia an emerging market country, you know, what do you say about Colombia? What do you say about, you know, how do you sell Colombia? What are the benefits of Colombia or the challenges of Colombia?
Very complicated question, France. I first went to Colombia in 2002, thereabouts, when we realized that I had clients that were in Venezuela. We realized that trouble was on the horizon, as you would know very well, France. So they moved to Colombia, and this was, they were involved in the natural resource sector. One of the first things I did was facilitated through our clients, and they eventually went on to do oil and gas, mining, and ports, and get involved in the general infrastructure. I brought down 5 very significant, important fund managers, and we met with President Uribe. And what President Uribe said, and I've kept this, and I've told this story many times to other fund managers who weren't there, but these were the go-to fund managers back in the day. And what I said to them, what Uribe said to them, and in a very unequivocal way, he said, "My country's been at war for 40 years." He said, "I don't have roads. I don't have good infrastructure at all." He said, "I know one thing about mining companies. They will build my infrastructure. So our partnership will be, I will let you explore." He said, "We're mineral rich. We've got lots of oil and gas." He said, "I'll let you do that. And so long as you're environmentally and socially responsible, so at all levels of the government, so that you integrate into society, that you employ my people." He said, "I will make your life very, very easy in terms of permitting." And he said, "I know that time is a real problem." And I think that set the tone for many years to come. And I think that sets the tone now, where, especially in a post-COVID world, that the Colombian infrastructure is being built. You know, it takes 12 hours to get from Cartagena to Bogota by car, and it takes an hour and 20 minutes by plane. So there's the railroads, things like that. So all in all, I would say that it's a very welcoming thing. And the biggest surprise for me is I thought I was going to a third world country. It's not a third world country. It's a very, very mature, well-educated, you know, and you know, I own a home in Cartagena, so I'm proof that I'm totally integrated into the country, and totally integrated into the way of life, and buying into the social and environmental responsibilities that befall us. And I can also say that as part of our pitch books now, which didn't exist in years gone by, is whole sections on, you know, how people, you know, how you are, how you take the environment and the social and the integration into society very, very seriously. And if companies aren't going to do it, they're not going to get finance. You know, what do you say? Punto penal.
That's excellent. And that's really good to hear. And I think it's all what we want to hear, right? A government that is focusing on its people and that is focusing on the environment and that is focusing on business doing it in the right way. I think that's definitely one of the biggest sell factors or investment factors in Colombia. Now, the interesting thing is that, Fernando, you've been in the country for many, many, many years. And we all know that, as Jean said and Sarah mentioned, you know, we first had 40 years of closure. It opened up in around 2010. I was very lucky to do several deals in Colombia during that time. Then things changed because the country wasn't expecting, you know, that much investment out of the blue. Things, you know, became difficult, became complicated. And then the country had to realize that it had to kind of reframe and redo a little bit of their, you know, legislative framework to allow for the country to move forward. So for somebody that has been in the country for so many years, Fernando, you know, what do you think where we are now? What do you think about the mining sector's evolution in the recent years? And what are your expectations in the future?
Sure. Let me start answering the question by referring to something that Eugene mentioned earlier about the metal market and what are the prices doing right now. So on one hand, I think we have a fantastic context in terms of metal prices. I absolutely agree with Eugene that we're going into a metal cycle, in particular for copper. Although you can argue that the market is getting ahead of itself right now, I do believe that we're getting into a supply constrained bull cycle for copper. So you have a very positive context on one side. On the other side, you have a very rich country in terms of potential. So in the middle, I guess what all you need to do is try and connect those two and facilitate the investment. Now, in the 10 years that we've been in Colombia operating, we've seen quite a journey in terms of improving that infrastructure to facilitate the investment in Colombia and to fulfill the enormous potential that Colombia has in terms of mining. So I do believe that we still have challenges that need to be faced and tended to, but in general, the transformation has been a fantastic one. It's been significant, it's been material. As both Dale and Sarah said, our experience is that dealing with government officials and local officials has been fantastic. The challenges I refer to are mainly related to applying for titles and operating titles. There's still bureaucracy that needs to be dealt with, but in my opinion, in my personal view, that's very normal given the stage where Colombia is in transition into a mine-friendly jurisdiction. Colombia, I believe, is in that path. It's moving in the right direction. It's just a matter of time.
Excellent. I don't know if Dale or Sarah, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I would.
Sorry,
go ahead, Sarah.
Go.
Okay, I'll jump in. Interesting comments, Fernando. Yeah, I would say, again, echoing it, that our experiences have been positive here. And really, for what we see in terms of challenges, well, we had an interesting discussion about exploration here. There remain some challenges in exploration, in opening up areas, making areas available, for example, for the junior segment of explorationists to come in and be active. There's probably some work that we can do there. As far as us here and able to develop, that's a positive experience. And echoing the comments of Eugene, this is a whole new frontier. We feel it is, and we feel that we're really well positioned here. We have the benefit of a strong alliance with our partner AngloGold Ashanti, with Gramalote, and we're looking for continued independent development here as well. The resource prices in the past year have been wonderful for B2 Gold, and that's left us extremely well positioned for financing Gramalote basically out of pocket. So that puts us in a good position. The cycle for us in terms of build is right, the timing is right, our construction teams are ready, and we've got a great team here in Gramalote, Colombia assembled. That's 89 Colombians and myself, ready to go.
Wonderful. Sarah, you wanted to add something?
No, I was just going to say as well, our experience has also been extremely positive. I think there is still a bit of work in progress. I think when we're talking about the permitting process to permit a mine, and whilst I think we have excellent government support when it comes to social issues, because I mean I think that's a common problem, not just for Colombia, but all through South America. I think here we have great government support, and I think that I think we see a difference when there is more consistency and presence from the government entities in these processes. It makes it a lot easier to deal with. But overall, our experience has been very positive as well.
It's wonderful to see, definitely, and it's amazing what seems to be coming. Let's focus a little bit on your specific project. Del, you already talked a little bit about your project. You have a gold project. You're a JV with AngloGold Ashanti, but you guys are the operators, and we heard that you just had an economic assessment that was very positive. Congratulations, so. What is it? This is a project. We heard about this project, both by the minister and by the president of the ANM. So what is about this project that has driven so much attention? And, how does the open pit element of the project, play into the uniqueness of your project?
Sure. No, thanks for the question. I'll take a quick half hour here and explain it thoroughly. First of all, we're happy to be here. I talked about our partnership with AngloGold. That's working out extremely well. And really for us, coming back from our origins, we're here as B2 Gold in 2002. And then we went on world tour, and here we are again. And happy to be here. The concept is it's a large, low-grade open pit. It's well advanced in terms of EIA and plan de trabajo y obras, so the work plan is set, and that puts us in pretty good shape to move forward. When we look at where we need to go, we need to advance our definitive feasibility study to a positive conclusion, positive upside conclusion, advance to a construction decision, and along with that, move the social aspects of the project forward. So that's resettlement and working with artisanal small miners, both aspects of which we've done. Cultures are different and communities are different, but we're well experienced in that area and able to move those forward. So what's new here and why the interest? Well, this is going to be the first. There are other open pit mines here, but this will be the first open pit gold mine in quite some time. So we see ourselves as a bit of a test case, and we're well aware of that. We also know that for Colombia, this is a significant investment. We're talking of around $1 billion to put this mine into process. So it gives good proof to Colombia that there is foreign investment out there, serious foreign investment willing to commit to the country. I think our partnership has demonstrated that we can advance gold mine development forward and still maintain social license and maintain positive relationships with the community. And that is probably one single factor that unlocks the key to move forward with this project. And finally, this is a project of national interest. So that means the government is keenly interested in seeing this move forward, as are we. We have these various aspects to tie into a cohesive schedule. In a perfect world, we would be mining probably yesterday, but we would like to be in and have our preliminary work by the end of this year, following a positive feasibility study. So Lots of interest here. Lots of interest that I saw in the PDAC last year in Colombia. People sensing that front runners in mine development, such as B2 Gold, they're interested in Colombia. Maybe there's something there for everybody.
Excellent. And Sarah, let's hear about your project. So you have the El Alacán project, which is a copper, gold, silver early stage project. And tell us a little bit about your project and let us know from an early stage project perspective, what has been your experience and what are your expectations in terms of moving through the next phases of the project going forward?
Sure. So as mentioned, we have a copper project with byproducts of gold and silver. We're in the Cordoba region where we have about 180,000 hectares between titles and applications. So we've effectively locked up most of the region there. We're also a project of national interest as well. So as Dale just mentioned, there's an interest in the government that this moves forward. We're currently in the stage really of moving from an exploration project to a development project, I guess. We're in the process at the moment of completing our studies for the PTO and the EIA. So we're due to file our PTO, which is the plan of works, in November, shortly followed by the environmental license application. Once we get those permits, so that should probably take about a year, a little bit quicker if we're lucky. So filing at the end of the fourth quarter, of 2021, hoping to be permitted at the end of 2022 or first quarter of 2023, and then it would be starting the phase of the construction of the mine. We will be open pit. And we're looking at starting off with a production of 16,000 tons per day. So I think it's actually quite a significant copper project for Colombia. If you look back, it was mentioned earlier that the total annual copper production at the moment was about 9 or under 10,000 tons for the year. So we're looking at starting off at 16,000 tons per day. So it's quite significant here. I mean, in our experience, I think we've all touched on our experiences in Colombia, that it's been positive. I think it's very important to maintain our government relations, so that the government's aware of where we're at and the studies that we're undertaking for the PTO and the EIA to help, I guess, with that process along the way. And so we're very optimistic and looking forward to getting these applications filed and permitting our project.
Excellent. And then Fernando, your situation is a little bit different, right? You have a Roble mine. We heard about the Roble mine, in the presentation of the minister as well. And it's a copper gold mine that has been operating for many years, and actually understand that your later technical reports confirm that you're going to have the ability to keep operating for many years on. So that's a wonderful position to be in. So I guess the question is a little bit different. The question for you is a little bit, what are your plans for growth in Colombia? Do you intend to grow organically? Do you intend to grow by acquisition? What are you expecting, in terms of operating in Colombia going forward? I don't know, Fernando. We got a little bit of technical video difficulties. Okay, let's give him a few seconds. Okay, so while we get Fernando back, Fernando, as soon as you come back, I'll give the word to you. But, I think he's going to come back in a few. There we go. We got you back, Fernando.
France, that was a tough question. My internet got scared.
I can see that. Sorry about that. But there's nothing tough for you.
Interruption. Let me start by saying that we mine a volcanogenic massive sulfide deposit, or VMS is a type of deposit. It's a high grade copper and gold. It's been ongoing for 30 years in Colombia, El Roble mine. And the particularity about VMSs is that they will tend to come in clusters. So our hypothesis is that around El Roble VMS, we can find other VMSs. And that will be proving the cluster hypothesis. We have over 6,000 hectares surrounding El Roble mine, where we see a lot of potential to find, again, other VMSs. Now, so our goal in Colombia right now is to prove our hypothesis of the Roble project. That's where we're focused, and that's where we're investing right now. We're seeing a lot of interesting results in terms of indications that there is potential for indeed more than one additional VMS at El Roble. That will then make it a more significant and impactful than it is today. Today, we run 1,000 ton per day underground operation. We employ about 1,000 people. We believe that if we're successful with exploration and we prove our hypothesis, we can double or triple that. And that's where we're focused on in Colombia. We have a large land package. We have a lot of room to play and explore. So in the coming years, we foresee we're going to be very much focused at proving this hypothesis. I think that's the cheapest growth we can provide to our shareholders, that organic growth right now in Colombia.
Excellent. Thank you, Fernando. And before I switch, because a topic that, of course, we talked here and has been, prevalent, and Jean mentioned it, and everybody has been, is of course social responsibility, environmental consciousness, and all that. We're going to touch into that in a few seconds because I want us to cover that a little bit. But I think before that, very quickly, Del, if you're expecting to get a positive feasibility study, so you're actually going to go now to development right away, right? So it's a very different operation, when you start construction and when you start operating. So what do you anticipate in terms of actually moving? Based on what you know about Colombia right now, is there anything that you think is going to be more particularly challenging than other? What are the basic things that you think you're going to have to worry about, moving into the next stage of moving into development, actually?
Sure. So I would reiterate that we are moving through the definitive feasibility study. We're reviewing that, and there's value engineering to add to that. So as we look forward, perhaps there are some changes that we need to accommodate in our project and in our structure as we advance. So that's task one. Task two, and I referred to these earlier, is to move forward the social aspects. So mining is not just mining. We all know that. So that's advancing the resettlement forward and advancing our work with formalization and transition to other areas within our concession for the small miners. So those three components need to fall into place. There's some infrastructure to construct. We have a 26-kilometer power line that will need to go in. So that will fall into place. Negotiations are advancing well for that. Really, what we see here, we're kind of set to go. We have a Gramalote Colombia in place. We've got a lot of technical talent here from Colombia ready to go. We have our construction team from B2 Gold, which draws from our former mining locations. For example, part of our crew will be from Namibia, part of it will be from Mali. And next, beyond Colombia, you'll see Colombians transition with us to that construction crew. I think they're pretty well done in Cabo San Lucas from their last project. And well relaxed and ready to go. So for us, it's a matter of ensuring that the project ticks all the boxes economically. We're well positioned to advance the project with our resources, including our technical knowledge, but we need to make sure that all those areas are clearly defined. We have a committed partner, so that's not a challenge. And they've been actually very supportive in the technical reviews as well. So you're not hearing many negatives here, are you, Fran?
No, definitely. It's good. I'm a big fan of Colombia, so this is wonderful. Sarah, you also talked about going into development. Anything that you want to add to what Dale just mentioned?
No, I think I think I agree with his points, and from our perspective, it's looking rather positive. So I don't really have anything else to add what he was saying.
So then, why don't we switch it a little bit, right? So, Dale, you wanted to say something quickly.
No, I'll hold my comments for later. Thanks.
Okay, let's switch a little bit. So again, when I go back to where, what Jean mentioned before, which I think was critical, right? And, we talked about a country that absolutely cares about sustainability, environmental, governance, people. And we all know that in today's world, actually, it's, nobody actually can move forward if we're not focused and you don't have a good plan for ESG. So perhaps, why don't we talk a little bit, again, Fernando, your situation is very different because you've been operating for many years. I'm going to leave you last for a little bit to hear what the lessons are learned, but I want to see the expectations. So what do you think, Sarah, let me start with you then. What do you think is going to be the contribution to the economy? What do you think are going to be, what are the in terms of social investment and social programs, what are the plans going forward?
Sure. I think everybody's agreed here that the social element of a project is critical. It's fundamental. We can't succeed without it. And it's as Dale said, mining's not just mining. It's also the social element as well. So as a company, we have 11 communities around our area of interest, I guess, our project. We have excellent relations with 10 of them. So we have one community that's a little bit more complicated, I guess, and we're working on that. We are obviously still an exploration company without income, but we have invested since 2014 around $1 million. Last year, we invested $100,000 in those communities, a lot really towards COVID-19 preventative measures with hand gels and face masks and all of that. But our support in general touches on, I guess, the fundamentals. So the type of social investment that we do is education, infrastructure, health, providing a nurse and setting up a center of health, I guess, for the communities to be attended to there, sports and recreation, productive sector. So we've built schools, we've provided materials, fixed roads, and I guess part of it as well is employment. We also have an agreement with one of the local entities. I'm not really sure if one of you know how to say it in English. It's SENA, so it's I guess they provide training to you partner up with them and they provide training to the locals. So we can train the people and hire locally. We actually have a clause in our contracts with all of our service providers that they must, where possible, hire locally, hire from the region. Obviously, if there is experts needed, then that's a little bit different. But always hiring locally. We provided IT classes as well and other training directly from the company outside of the agreement with SENA. And I think the other thing that where it's been possible, we've entered into agreements to formalize the artisanal miners, so that that they have to meet certain legal requirements here in Colombia, and it's normally where it's sort of artisanal or subsistent miners, I guess, so that then they can go through the process and they can commercialize and legalize what they're producing in that very small amount. So we're actually providing training on that and we're assisting through the entire process. We actually have one that's very close to being formalized, but I think it's important to then, for them to be given that training and that sort of opportunity.
That's excellent. And I think artisanal mining is definitely one of the biggest areas, I think, right now in every country, right now in Latin America, right? And how to work with them, how to incorporate them into community, how to train them and facilitate actually best practices for mining, going forward, so everybody actually can benefit from production. And is this process working in Colombia? do you think the process that is right now in place, is it taking very long? Is it efficient? How do you see it?
I think it's working and it's positive. But I think that it's not an easy process. So I mean, we're effectively managing the process with them because they really wouldn't be able to do it on their own. And I think we need to distinguish here, because it was mentioned earlier on, but we need to distinguish here between the artisanal miners and the illegal miners, because that's something that's a separate issue, and they don't meet the requirements to be able to be formalized and trained and that sort of thing. But with the artisanal miners, I agree with what you said, that it's extremely important that we're assisting them and showing best practices, in particular with respect to environmental responsibility, to minimize the environmental impact, because there is still a lot of mercury, for example, used here in that sort of mining. So it really is changing the chip, providing the training, and showing them how it's done.
Excellent. And Del, I think, oops, I lost you for a second. So in the same thing, right? So you guys are actually very well recognized in terms of your sustainable environmental practices. I believe you guys are going to receive an award on PDAC. Congratulations. And more importantly, you guys received the Seal of Antioquia Award, from the government of Antioquia to the Ministry of Mine for Large Scale Operations, recognizing your commitment to community, which is absolutely outstanding. It's wonderful. So what can you tell us about, and I guess this comes from your experience, of course, all over around the world, as you mentioned, you're bringing into the country. What do you think has been the key to success? And what should you, what do you tell to everybody out there that actually wants to come and do, mining in Colombia?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, it's wonderful to be recognized for the work that we've done, and we're well recognized in the countries where we operate. That's good, but that's not why we do it. We do it because that's what we do. It's part of the way we do business. Our vision is to be inclusive of environmental stewardship and social responsibility when we make our plans. So this is how we do business, and really from the first operation with B2 Gold in Nicaragua, that was the attitude. So no surprise, it's no surprise to us that we have some positive outcomes from that. The reward for us, though, is really seeing the twin of economic development and community development as we work forward with our projects. Now, yeah, we've had good successes, and we continue to work with that. We're really fortunate in Colombia. I'm finding that there are great multiplier mechanisms here. I'm thinking, if you look at some of our most recent initiatives, we've been busy in the community, of course, and really busy with the town council in San Roque. But the most recent initiatives, one is SENA, which is for development of entrepreneurs in the San Roque area. That's twin funding. That's between us and SENA, the agency, to move forward and promote business development, which is usually one of the more challenging aspects that we encounter when we're in a community, because we're engineers. We love to build some infrastructure, support for education and support for medicine and health is kind of a given, but it's the development of business that is key. So on one hand, we'll develop entrepreneurs. On the other hand, if you look at our operations, between 60 and 90% of our purchases are local. Local, depending on the need. I could be talking about San Roque, I could be talking about Antioquia or something at the national level. So that helps promote the areas that we want to advance. The other area that we're happy to move forward, because we spent a lot of time, as I said, talking with the town council. They have a number of plans they want to move forward, and in conversation with the Secretary of Mines here in Antioquia, he was able to channel us through to a group called Ideas, which is development related to development in Antioquia. So there you have a combination of municipal funding, private funding, that's us, and Antioquia level funding. So suddenly you're able to look at these projects and advance the planning as a participant. Our goal is never to replace the government, but certainly we're glad to see these aspects of community development move forward. Those are particularly well developed here in Colombia compared to some of the other venues where we've been working.
Yeah, you touched upon a very important point. You know, the reality is that mining companies in the communities where they operate, they don't replace the government, but they complement the government. And it's very important to understand that, you know, the influence that you have in the communities around you, and how you need to work together with them, as opposed to, you know, just seeing them and just being there, but, you know, they become part of your project. And I think that's a very important comment that you made. You want to add anything regarding what Sarah mentioned about artisanal mining? What has been your experience with artisanal mining or resettlement of communities?
Yes, they're in every country where we work, with the exception of Namibia, where the location is a little bit isolated and they have 15 meters of calcrete to work through before they can find anything. Yes, we have them on our property. There are about 600 on the concession, about 300 that are within the footprint of our mines. Answer to question number one, yes, it can be done. We've got a great success in progress with a group called La Maria and another one well advanced. The only final stage with La Maria is to establish a small mill. We've been working with the National University on that. We'll meet, I think, at probably the end of this week, and then we'll be able to advance to construction with that. La Maria group is going to participate in that construction. They'll look after the earthworks and the preliminary construction. But what we see in Colombia is a mechanism to move these people, to legitimize them. We already know they're an important part of their local economy, and that's true in many countries where we work. What they aren't is legitimate and recognized and supported. So the path to formalization we know works. We've developed the expertise over the last 3 or 4 years with Gramalote Colombia to implement that. We've had good response from the community of small miners through the municipality, in fact, to sign on to the formalization process. So for us, our strategy here is a little bit different. Of course, myself being new to the country, what we did first was spend some time discussing at year end last year with a number of government agencies to understand their point of view of perspective. And of course, they had some advice for us. Start of the year, we caucused and organized among ourselves and our departments to establish what the tasking was. And from that, our decision point is, okay, now we have something to talk about and to put on the table. Now we go and talk to the small miners and get them involved. We need to hear what they need. We need to hear where they need to go, and they need to be understanding of the process as well. Is that different from other countries? Some other countries, for example, Nicaragua, already developed into cooperatives. So you had an organization to work with. Here, the miners here are a little more independent than that. So that makes the challenge a little different. But as I said, every community and every culture, these things are different. There are commonalities. These guys want to put bread on the table, but there are cultural differences here compared to other places as well. Thank you.
Well, and I think, thank you. And I think what you said, right? Listening to the government and listening to the artisanal miners as well. You need to understand, you know, what everybody's actually looking for, you know, what everybody's actually goals and aims are, and then try to harmonize and work with them all together. And then, you know, that brings me to Fernando, because again, Fernando is a different situation, right? You know, we have a community that is used to mining. We have a community that has had a mine, you know, around it for, you know, various generations. People know, are familiar with it. I don't think that you need to sell mining to them. But, you know, having said that, I do believe that it's a constant, I guess, you know, I wouldn't call it challenge, but, you know, to maintain that social license current on a regular basis, there are works that you have to keep and continue doing, because the same way that you have it, the same way you can lose it. So what is your experience? What can you tell us about what has been the secret to maintaining that social license with the community for so long. What are your recommendations? What are your approaches in when it comes to dealing with communities and environment and ESG generally?
Sure, just one clarification. The fact that they are used to mining, the local town, I mean, used because the mine has been operating for over 30 years, doesn't necessarily they like it or they don't.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of
Right.
difficulty hearing you, Fernando.
So I think the benefit of unity is my back.
I think you're back now. Let's try again.
Okay. So I was saying that they're used to it, but you have to show them the benefit of having a mining operation as part of their community. And I think that most people, if not everyone in this business, knows the recipe, but not many companies are very successful. And how you reconcile that? And we believe that you reconcile it just by thinking that the devil is in the details here. I think that you need to be very good in terms of execution. You need to execute your community relations plan as good or even better than, let's say, your production plan. You really have to be very focused and committed in terms of involving the community and excelling at executing that plan. The plan is easy. That's the easy part, I think. Everyone knows what to do. Everyone thinks they know how to do it, but the execution is where most people don't get to the level where they most likely will need to be to get that community acceptance. It has taken us some time to engage the community and show them the benefit of mining. We acquired the operation in late 2013. It was run in a very different way. So we started working since then and changing the way the community interacted with the mine and vice versa. And we've done several different things, but I'll just refer to something that Dale also mentioned that I think it's key and it's one of my favorites. And it's promoting entrepreneurial initiatives and activities within the community. I think that's one of my favorites. We've promoted, helped, and still support about a dozen entrepreneurial initiatives within the community. And one of the reasons it's my favorite is because mining is a finite business. At some point, there will be nothing more to mine. Whether you're a huge mine or not, at some point, there will be no more mining. What are we leaving the community when we're not there anymore to make them better, to improve their lives and their well-being? And I think these entrepreneurial activities are key and center for that concept. So yes, we do a lot of things. We work also with the government, the local authorities, central government and local authorities. We have constant forums where we hear them. We interact with them constantly to understand their issues and what they're going through. And they actually are part of our CSR plan that is constantly changing to adapt to their needs and the things that are coming. For instance, our plan for 2020 changed dramatically, if you can imagine. And we actually jointly developed the plan for the year to be able to tend to the urgent needs of the community during the year that was totally different than 2019, for instance. So we're working with them. They're our partner in terms of developing the plan and executing it, if you will. I think that's our view, in my mind, the best way to approach it. You have to have very capable people that are committed to it, and you have to excel at executing.
No, that's wonderful. And you know what, you mentioned right now about 2020, and it's wonderful that we barely talked about COVID. That's been good. We're talking about actual operations. We're talking about actual investments. We're talking about future. And, you know, this is actually very refreshing a year into the pandemic. Jean, you know, based on what you've heard, you know, and again, you actually set up the stage for, you know, environmental, social responsibility in Colombia. You know, you heard the minister, you heard the president of the A&M, you know, what are your additional thoughts in terms of, you know, operations and investments in Colombia?
Well, I think that the point that Sarah brought up is a very, very important one, which is the difference between illegal and artisanal miners. And Fernando and Dale certainly augmented that you have to deal with the people who have the right to be there. It's their community, and in the early stage of this development, there are people coming in who are looking for financing and looking for opportunities, who are paying lip service to it. And I wouldn't progress the discussions much, because I know how strongly the governmental people do not want lip service paid to it. They are very concerned about, as Fernando said, you know, developing a sense of entrepreneurial. Also, let's not lose sight of the fact that there are certain areas of Colombia that still have where the paramilitary and the guerrilla have influence, and certainly I'm aware of it at least in two areas that the locals get shaken down by the and here, sell your gold here, sell your. I mean, you can make the parallels between cocaine and gold, and I guess those elements that would shake them down, and the government does not want to obviously encourage this, nor do they want to have. It has a tremendously negative impact on the community when they gain this prominence. And I know that what's been happening with at least one of my clients, Gran Colombia. Gran Colombia has set up a system where they mine the ore of the legal miners, the artisanal miners. They encourage them to go into areas of their property that have not been, that are not part of the mine plan, and they give them, and they train them, and they emphasize, as Sarah said, the use of mercury by the illegal miners, and you only have to go down to in Venezuela, kilometer 88, and the devastation there is tremendous. But I think that it's really, really important that you do work with the artisanal miners or the legal miners, if you want. There's nothing to do about the illegal miners. There's nothing to do. But I know with Gran Colombia, they work well with the community, and more importantly, the local levels of government will give them security should the negative elements try to have an influence on the community. So I think everything that the panel has been discussing is certainly in tune with what I know and what I've experienced. And the good news is nobody pays lip service to this anymore. This is a fact. This is a reality. You've got sections of your organization that are devoted to this, and it's deeply appreciated by the locals, but B, the local government and the federal government. So it's here to stay, France. It's here to stay.
Agree. And I do see the mining industry, believe it or not, as being part of the solution going forward when it comes to, all the environmental challenges that we're facing, because we have now a mining industry that is well more educated, sophisticated, prepared, and that has the real intention to actually, work with the communities and do things right to help develop, the economy. Quick question, finally, in terms of, because I had a quick question for you, Jean, quickly. In 2020, there was Canaccord and Scotiabank, led a private placement for Aris Gold, what is now Aris Gold. Anything that you want to say about that?
Yeah, that was an interesting, very interesting transaction. We worked extremely well with the team from Scotia. It's particularly interesting for me because it was my first transaction at Canaccord Genuity. What we were trying to do was surface a value in Gran Colombia. And Gran Colombia had the Marmato mine, and the Marmato mine was producing about 25,000 ounces a year. And the idea was to create a new company that could develop it, and they did. The stock has performed remarkably well. The management of Aris brought in a whole new management team led by Neil Woodger, who's a very experienced mining guy. And in fact, I think it was through Neil I met Clive Johnson at B2Gold. So in any event, all things lead back to each other. But that was a transaction where we were trying to service a value, and we did. And Gran Colombia is still the controlling shareholder of Aris. Aris is, I think we did the transaction at $2.35 a share, and it's now trading in the low threes, plus the warrant is trading around 80 cents. So very, very successful transaction, well received and by the market, and the support of what they did the trifecta in terms of they did debt, equity, and they did a streaming deal with Wheaton. So, and that to me legitimizes how well received that transaction. That legitimizes the whole financing side of Colombia. If you've got a good project, you can finance it.
And I think that's what I wanted to mention and bring it up because, again, it is very important financing for everybody here involved and for everybody that is watching, invested in Colombia. I think right now, transactions like this show that it is a good idea and that there's a market out there that can support it. So at this point, I just wanted to check if anybody in the panel has anything else that they want to add before we go to our Q&A question. Dale, please.
Yeah, just a quick comment. We've heard from 3 operators or near operators, hopeful operators ourselves. And part of what the character of Colombia comes across and the character of mining today, as we know it, is the key of communications with the stakeholders. That means fairness, respect, and transparency in order to build trust. And whether that's we're talking about with the government, with our investors, or with the community, all of those values for us still hold. And I think that's what we're seeing here is the deposit is one key in developing the mine. And those other parts need to fall into place in order to move forward.
Couldn't agree more. Fernando and Sarah, do you have anything that you want to add?
I probably just want to add one comment on from what Eugene was saying about the difficult areas in with paramilitaries and that sort of thing, because I think it's important and we haven't really touched on it much, but I think sometimes the concern for Colombia can be security in terms of investment, and from I think we're a really good example in a sense that we're in one of the hottest, I guess, areas of the country, which is the main passageway for cocaine. So we have everything there that you can imagine. But we're also one of 5 companies in the country to have agreements with both the police and the military. And so we're able to work there in that zone with police presence and with military presence. We took police into the zone for the first time that'd been there in 35 years. And we're able to work perfectly fine, no incidents, no risk. So I think it's something that can be done here. And there's definitely government support and support from the institutions to manage that.
Very important comment. That's good to know. Fernando, anything last words?
Well, perhaps I just want to emphasize that I believe that, as I mentioned earlier, Colombia is transitioning in the right direction at the right pace, in my mind, into a full mining jurisdiction. And I believe that's key and important to convey. Of course, there's still some things that need to be worked, but in my mind, the last 10 years have been an important change as we have witnessed as we were operating. And I think the environment right now is quite different, much more positive for mining investments in Colombia.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So I think this completes our panel discussion. Andres, we have a few minutes left for Q&A. I don't know, Andres, if you want to take it from here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to use the Q&A button for Zoom. I'll pass it on to you, Andres.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Friends, I have only 2 questions that I saw in the Q&A, so maybe we might talk about those. One, it might, be complementing the comments of Sarah. It says, what is the biggest issue that Colombia needs to fix to be more attractive to investment? So maybe, Sarah, maybe you were talking about security. I don't know if anybody want to take that.
I could just add a little bit to that. I think something that was very positive for Colombia in terms of international investment was certainly the signing of the peace agreement in 2016. I think that gives investors a lot more comfort. And as I mentioned, it is a concern, I think, for investors. Still, a lot of the time, it's one of the first questions that comes up. But from somebody who's, we've been here, we, through our initial investment from HBX, came here in 2015. And we've been able to manage it very well. There's excellent, as I mentioned, excellent government support, excellent institutional support from the police and from the military. So it's totally workable. And maybe in terms of, maybe that needs to, a bit of work could be done on that for the public image of it, I guess. So people can understand that the country really has progressed in terms of security and that it's a safe jurisdiction to work.
Thank you, Sarah. Anyone else want to?
Yeah, I have a quick comment. I would say I would agree with Sarah. The presence of the military, presence of the police certainly provide a stabilizing influence in the community for our small miners. They are truly local miners, so that's one aspect that certainly works in our favor. I think what Colombia at this point, they have very much aligned in promoting mine development. The term is si se puede. They would like to see, I believe, in Colombia, some projects advance and operate successfully and sustainably, demonstrating nothing demonstrates better than a clear demonstration that yes, you can, and yes, you can continue to operate in a stable environment here. I think that's one of the things that Colombia is looking for.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else, Jane or Fernando, would like to comment?
Sure. Beyond what Sarah and Dale have mentioned, I think that there's still some work to do in terms of, in particular for exploration companies, stability and bureaucracy around getting, for instance, drill permits, obtaining titles. I think there are still some things that Colombian authorities need to work around to make more green process. I believe that, as the president of the National Mining Agency said, that their focus is in terms of increasing production. But to increase production, you first have to have exploration. You first have to promote exploration. And I think a fantastic way of promoting exploration is streamlining the process that these companies need to effectively deploy capital into exploring.
Okay, thanks, Fernando. Jean, any other comments before we wrap it up? Nope. All right, I think this is it, Franz. We're over time, and I think we'll probably just close the event. Okay. So, honestly, Franz, I have to admire this panel session. What a great panel conversation. I love it. I'm even more excited about mining sector in Colombia now than before. So thank you. And I want to thank you, the participants, obviously starting with the Minister of Mines and Energy, the President of the National Mining Agency. But I also want to thank our panel of experts, Sara, Jean, Fernando. They are wonderful insights, and what a great takeaways that I have for this event. So thank you so much. Franz, as always, you made this panel so engaging. So thank you for being here and helping. And I couldn't really imagine a better panel, a better session. So thank you again. I want to thank our sponsors, our leadership sponsors, Gowling, WLG, B2 Gold, Canaccord Genuity, Atico Mining, Cordoba Minerals, and our executive sponsors, Max Resources, Minera Cobre, and Global Affairs Canada. I want to thank the guest. I want to thank you for joining. I want to thank and invite you all to come to Colombia if you haven't done it yet. And please stay tuned for more events like this, where we can continue building relations between Canada and Colombia. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.